Hey guys, it's Philipp Druzhinin, and as I promised, we were going to talk about Tartarian versus Vedic. So, first of all, let's talk about the one important topic that we should mention concerning the culture, because Vedic culture is what we know from different official sources. Okay, and it was like way before in a timeline, maybe even before the Abrahamic religions, right? So it's like 5,000 years ago or something, or maybe even more. So, uh, but what actually Vedic culture is different with? So what are actually what is the main attribute that Vedic culture gives us in such areas like for example funeral culture? Okay, we know that they're burning and corpses and like dumping ash into the rivers. So this is probably the main difference. So um, who else did it? It was done through all Eurasia, or at least we can say it was done in the whole northern part of this world, right? Like Northern America also did it, and maybe even in South America. I don't know about Africa, but I'm pretty sure that maybe some areas of Africa also perform such a funeral culture. Okay, and it's different from the burial culture, and is definitely connected to the mounds because those remains after the burial procedures were dumped into the mounds, and then we see the mounds. The mounds culture is everywhere. So I mean, everywhere. So each and every country had it. Like I had information that some guy was writing in 19th century that we were destroying like 3,000 mounds per year. So it's only one mission that was doing it. So just imagine, they were not researching at all. They were just dumping whatever was in it, and if there was something precious, they took it. If there was nothing precious, there's not nobody even um made any list of what was inside, because they just dumped the mound, and that's it. And that's why we see so many mounds around here in Moscow, in European part of Russia, in the Asian part of Russia. Mostly they're like covered with the streets, with the trees. Sorry, and so the trees are like around 100, 150, even 200 years, maybe sometimes. But I haven't seen any trees like that. I only see like 120 to 150 years old trees. So that leads me to some type of uh, hypothesis that those mounds are not that old as they were written on them, like they were writing like 19th, 13th century, 11th century, 9th century. I don't know what calculation led them to think like that, but I think it's like 200, 300 years old mounds, and that's why we see the so young trees on them, because the trees have life like 300, 400 years, and right now we see only very young trees around us. So this is what we should talk about, because mounds are everywhere, and the Vedic culture is also connected to mounds, because the Vedas themselves tell that the gods came from the north, and of course they saw some things like northern lights and stuff like this, and also described in Mahabharata, and some things like you cannot see in India itself. So they like describing something that was around Arctic area. Okay, that's why we could talk about Hyperborea area or Ural Mountains or even Siberia as the motherland of all these gods that came to India, and they were like trying to transfer its information into what we know as Vedic knowledge. Okay, so and maybe the wars that were depicted in the Indian Vedas are also connected to what we see, the presence of these marks that were left by the bombardment in Tartaria. And this is also the connection. Okay, so the war itself is connection number two. So we can say Vedic is Tartarian while talking about the bombardment that could be prestigious. And I've been making a couple of videos and I've been describing all this stuff, so you might as well check them out. Also, serious connection we see in the cultural, like dressing and all this, fashion stuff, because all this Tartarian culture, the cultures that were living in like Russia, Europe, and all this stuff, they like have the same designs and what we see in some Indian culture. So, I mean, this is really copied, and I mean, it used to be the same one, okay? Even the officials tried to say, like, they cannot deny this, very, very common to what we see. So, I mean, this is obvious point, and the culture itself, like a dressing, the fashion itself, ornaments, are really pretty much connected. India was even on the maps of Tartarian land, so it may be connected to this empire of great Mongols, so also connected to the Mughal Tartaria that we used to find out in the history books, like it was the Mongols attacking like Russians for and capturing the whole land for 300 years, and even riding up to from Mongolia to the maybe even Turkey or Bulgaria or Hungary and stuff like this. So I mean, this is really impossible. Just the simple calculations don't show any support to this theory. As for the theory of large numbers of troops passing through huge distances like 3,000 kilometers or even more, and so to be Mongols were supposed to pass like around 10,000 kilometers to reach the Europe. I mean, how many foods they supposed to meet on their way to support and feed these 300,000 troops with horses? I mean, this is impossible. It's totally ridiculous theory, and it doesn't show any support in actual evidence, because nobody's calculating this stuff. I mean, if you watch this video to the end, you're gonna see the postscript, and you'll find out what the history, and those who trying to debunk the obvious evidence that nothing happened like this that they were depicting in history books. I mean, all those historians, all those scientists, what do they actually do? They just stealing the budgets that we like funding them through the government and all these non-government organizations. Okay, guys, so it's really ridiculous to say that it's not. So watch it till the end and you see the postscriptum about recent recent news that happened. Hey bird, recent news that happened with the Russian science. Okay, and that can lead you to what I'm trying to say, that scientists don't care, historians don't care, archaeologians don't care, because they care about different other things like stealing money, stealing budgets, wasting their time with useless book writing. Yeah, they book writing, they're selling the books. This is why I don't write any books and don't sell them, because this is useless. And some guys can come just and burn all your books and just buy all the tirage and just waste it. So it doesn't really help you to spread the knowledge. That's why the YouTube works perfectly, because large numbers, or unpredicted numbers of people can basically watch you. If somebody big and large can share you, that also helps, and that helped a bunch of times. And we see like about 2 million views on this channel, at least. They were under I meet you guys sharing this video, of course, and I meet those big large channels so promoting my content. Okay, so the Vedic knowledge is also connected with this. So I mean, this is important, because both Vedic and Tartaric is just prohibited by the official science, and then this is really ridiculous to figure that it is true. Nobody except those Indian historians actually researching the Vedic knowledge. I mean, nobody does, and who else does? And those who do it a very, very mainstream way. I mean, not even walking outside, not viewing what's really going on, not picturing all this cities. They look like they're totally bombed in India, in Tartary, and so you have to just visit the area, and you'll find out that's a bunch of evidence there, and people go there, just check it out, and you'll see so many areas in the mountains where we have all these megalithic structures in Russia, and a bunch of cities in India also bombed and, like right now, buried under the mud. So I mean, it's really a lot of things to research. uh, don't forget the Persia area, like Iraq, Iran. You'll find out so many areas. Syria is totally wasted by all these wars. I mean, they trolling us, and they hiding all this evidence in the plain sight by just blowing it up. Sometimes, I mean, this is ridiculous, guys. We have to understand that. So this is the connection, okay? So I think I made a couple of points that show that the Tartaric and the Vedic is pretty much the same, and we can easily put an equal sign if we compare those versus each other, okay? So thanks a lot for watching, and check out this postscriptum. You might like it, guys. Thanks. See you later. Hey guys, as usual, postscriptum. Today we're gonna talk about one very famous Russian historian scientist. He was a professor at St. Petersburg Historical University, and so he recently got caught while sinking the corpse of his wife into the river of Neva near his house, while being dressed like Napoleon. Yes, he's a famous reconstructor, and he's very well known in France and Russia. He's one of the top historians about Napoleon, and he is also playing Napoleon in all those reconstructions and battles, and so people call him Sir. Sir, like Napoleon was, and that is his wife, who was murdered by him in his own apartment. And building is a very mud flood looking like, as you can see. It's located in the historical center on an embankment of the river Moika, and so he was killing her with a gun, very small caliber, like shooting like 6 times in the head or something, and then he chopped her body in parts and was sinking it into a river of Neva, right in front of the Russian Detective Committee of St. Petersburg. So very interesting story. Why I've been talking about this guy, because this guy was on the channel that was trying to debunk the mud flood, the channel that gets support from the government for all the actions they do to discredit the alternative history, alternative theories. The channel consists of different authors, and this Sokolov dude, Sokolov scientist, has maybe his relative who's also named Sokolov, and they make these debunkings of everything, like trying to debunk a lot of stuff. So mostly they do it in Russian, and they pretend to be scientists. In fact, Sokolov was tested by for his doctorship, his scientific degree, and so very interesting, because he has a case of plagiat, and he was sentenced to be a plagiator. So he stole the idea and stuff like this. So I don't think he has really scientific achievements, except all this theater that he was performing. He was very artistic, and he's very dull right now, but he was very artistic, and that's why he was engaging with his students very young age. Since 19 years old, she was engaged with him for 5 years, and was murdered by him at her 24. So this is not exactly Jeffrey Epstein case, but it's kind of the same when the professor is using his student in his own game.